Every October, we see a flood of purple ribbons. We have dedicated awareness months, hashtags, and countless campaigns telling us that domestic abuse is real. Yet the tragedies continue to happen at alarming rates. These campaigns often treat abuse as an unfortunate, static fact of life. This perspective overlooks the specific operational machinery that allows abuse to function and persist. Systemic failure stems from how law enforcement, the courts, and healthcare systems are structurally trained to view the problem. It is a matter of institutional design, rather than a lack of public sympathy. Passive awareness gives us a comforting illusion of progress, while leaving the actual mechanics of how abusers operate completely untouched. Tracy Curtis, a domestic abuse educator and forensic psychology expert, identifies a dangerous structural error in our official systems. They classify abuse as a series of discrete, isolated events. When police arrive or doctors perform an intake, they are trained to look for a measurable peak, a physical injury, a shattered phone, or a specific 911 call. They focus on the single dot on the timeline. They then document this dot using softened institutional language, labeling it an altercation or a domestic dispute. This vocabulary immediately shrinks the scale of what the survivor is actually experiencing. Curtis warns that when systems call it an incident, they miss the pattern, and when they miss the pattern, they completely miscalculate the lethal risk. The incident model is a diagnostic failure. By focusing only on the visible explosion, the system ignores the abuser's day-to-day behavior, leaving survivors unprotected. Coercive control creates an ongoing psychological and systemic reality that extends far beyond physical violence. It starts by systematically cutting off the survivor's world. Abusers sever ties between the victim and their friends, family, and outside support networks, ensuring they have nowhere else to turn. Then comes resource deprivation. By restricting access to bank accounts, transportation, or employment, the abuser controls the financial reality, making it physically impossible to afford to leave. They weaponize digital tools. Smart home devices and GPS trackers are used to constantly monitor movements. Even when a survivor manages to physically leave, the pattern continues. Post-separation abuse relies on the legal system, custody battles, and ongoing harassment to maintain control from a distance. Coercive control builds an invisible cage. That isolated physical incident is simply one visible symptom of a much larger, ongoing threat. Traditional first responders often fail to map out this web. They respond to the immediate crisis, clear the scene, and file a report that flattens a complex control dynamic into a standard domestic dispute. The friction point is structural. Frontline workers often lack the forensic psychology framework required to identify and record the invisible tactics surrounding a single event. Empower Ed serves as a structural intervention to directly retrain these failing systems. Using her academic background and lived experience, Curtis equips law enforcement and legal professionals with trauma-informed, culturally responsive tools to document these behaviors. Empower Ed provides an operational blueprint, changing how systems recognize and document coercive control, moving past passive awareness materials. When an institution tracks patterns instead of isolated incidents, the previously hidden threat dynamics immediately become visible. Standard medical intakes and police reports evolve into a comprehensive forensic timeline of the abuser's actions, rather than a static snapshot of a single night. This shift transforms systemic interventions into a proactive strategy of risk management, moving away from a reactive stance that waits for the next 911 call. Rewiring the system this way directly disrupts the long-term cycle of abuse, offering actual protection for survivors and children. The ultimate result of this work is forcing the overarching system into a state of strict accountability. True accountability involves holding abusers legally and socially responsible for the entirety of their behavioral pattern and ending the minimization of survivor experiences. The empowered philosophy relies on a clear equation. A better systemic understanding of abuse directly dictates a more accurate institutional response. Upgrading our institutions to recognize the true anatomy of abuse allows us to move beyond passive awareness and actively save lives.